So Graham, can you share a piece of advice you wish you were given at the start of your career?
Yeah, I think so. I suppose specifically on kind of leadership, I think, because I think that was probably the hardest jump. I mean, I think a lot of people talk about this, and that was probably the most difficult thing to do, I think, is going from a technical role, so a programmer, to a leadership role, and what you have to do for that. And I think that that can be quite a difficult proposition because what's valued is suddenly different. So I think that the best advice that I would give anybody if they're starting their career in general, but also particularly if you're moving into a sort of leadership position, which there is a lot of advice on, but I would suggest the thing that I found most useful was to ask your manager what success looks like, which I think is quite a difficult conversation to have to start with, but it's really important because it helps you in so many ways. For a start, you're not second guessing the person that's managing you, and if you ask them, say, hey, what does this role in terms of success look like after 12 months or whatever, what would be your definition of success for me? Because at least that gives you as an individual something to work towards and something to think about, and so you know that you're kind of on the right track if you're meeting those objectives. Whereas sometimes it's very hard to just sort of second guess, what am I supposed to be doing, what's the value that I'm delivering here? And that gets really, really difficult when you get into management, because you're so used to delivering content, or doing Jira tickets, or creating features, or developing systems, and then all of a sudden that's not actually your main priority. Your main priority might be something different, i.e. the team's success. And so understanding exactly what's needed there really helps you focus on those areas and helps reduce some of that kind of imposter syndrome that you may be feeling going into your role. So I think that's something that I've started to do, certainly the last 2 roles that I've had. It's been, what does success actually look like, which is usually takes people a little bit aback on the first day, but it's a super important thing to get people thinking about, so they can give you that direction and just help them give you that direction rather than you try to sort of second guess them.
Can you share a pivotal moment in your career that changed the trajectory of your career?
Yeah, totally. So when my first management job, so this is where I stopped coding for a living and started managing people and projects, I was super lucky because I worked with this person, Chris, who has now gone on to, I think it's like head of the sort of whole of the sort of IT function at Northumberland County Council, and he had a very senior job at DWP, but he was incredibly inspiring. He was the same level as me, so we were both kind of leads, but he really modelled the way for how you be a really good lead, and not just doing your job, but actually thinking about how you can make things better and not being afraid to take those things on. So I think for me that was like a light bulb going off. Working with him was a massive bonus, because, and luckily the company that I worked with was very encouraging for that. So again, I think that's probably the moment when it was just like, don't just do what your job says, but look for opportunities to grow and develop, but also look to make improvements across everything. And it's such a massive difference, huge difference in what you do and how you approach your work and how you go to work and looking for those challenges. It suddenly becomes like a really exciting thing to do, rather than just going to work every day and doing the same thing. So I think that was definitely for me a huge influence on me and how I carried on with my work going forward, and it's something that I always try and aspire to in the work that I do.
And then what attributes do you look for when hiring for your team?
Yeah, so it's kind of attitude and aptitude really, and I think people get really bogged down in wish lists of job descriptions, and you have 1,000 things that you'd like that person to have, and there's about 3 people in the world that can actually do all of those things. And so that's not really where I approach these things from. What I'm kind of interested in is people who do that, the thing that I've talked about there, which is that not just what your job description, not just that small part of your role, but to look to make things better for everybody within your team, to be a really great kind of person to work with, to be great at communicating with people, but enthusiastic and visionary and trying to push things forward. I love working with people who do that. People who challenge me to go, actually, we can do this better, can't we? And really start to push things. And I think that it kind of a rising tide, raises all ships. And it's really the truth when you have somebody in a team that does that. So those are the kinds of things that I'm, examples of where people haven't just done their job, but done more than that. And I'm not talking about people crunching or doing crazy hours. That's not what this is about. But what it is about somebody who's taken something, an opportunity, and delivered on that opportunity, but exceeded on that opportunity. And gone, actually, we can make things better for everybody by doing a little bit more here, or making sure that's done. So I think those are the kind of, if I'm people that are coming, if I'm interviewing people and they're talking about those kinds of things, then that's a very positive thing for me. But again, not, somebody who can work very well with other people. You can't, long gone are the days of software development where you sat in a cubicle and worked on your own from a specification that was provided by a business analyst that took them 6 months to do, and you just sat there and coded and you didn't speak to anybody. That's not really how things are made, certainly not how games are made. And so again, that's a really important thing of being able to demonstrate that you can communicate and collaborate with people is a big thing, as well as being technically really good and enthusiastic. So enthusiasm goes a long way, I will say, because it's worth a lot, and it's some, I've gone for jobs, I think, where I've probably been technically the worst candidate, but I've got the job, and I think mainly because I was super enthusiastic about it, and I knew I could do it, but it was a differentiating factor. And I think that being able to pick things up, learn quickly as well is also a really good advantage.
Finally, thinking specifically about gaming, what unique challenges should someone starting their career be aware of?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. I think it is that what you'll be doing will be very varied, and so being able to pick things up, different things up, and be open to opportunity, I think, is probably the thing to remember. You may think, actually, what, I want to be an AI developer, for example, when you're a junior, because you like doing AI, and totally understand that. But when you're a junior, I would say try not to pigeonhole yourself just yet. Obviously you've got interests, and that's why you've got into games development, but try to take the opportunities for what they are. If that means working in back-end code, or working on front-end UI or UX stuff, which people who want to work in particular areas may not want to do, take the opportunities, because they will make you super valuable, and they'll give you a great appreciation for other areas that you will have to interact with in the future. So I would say, that's probably how I would answer that, is be open to opportunity, and don't just close yourself off thinking, I want to do graphics, or I want to do this. When you're starting out, try to look at it as a way of learning as much as you possibly can, and then think about specialization by all means. But just look for those opportunities and put yourself forward. I've worked with a fantastic junior at the moment, and she's exactly like that. I think she's won a couple of awards as well recently. So, but that's that's how she is, and she's really inspiring. So I think that's a really great example of a junior coming into the industry.